Imagine being locked up, but acting like you're the star of a high-end reality show. P. Diddy, known for his extravagant style, is shocking even prison guards with his absurd demands. He refuses food, won't shower, and demands to be treated like a king, all while facing the harsh reality behind bars. What happens when a legend meets real life in prison? In today's video, we will hear the story of one of the guards at the prison where P. Diddy is, where he recounts in detail all the stories of the American rapper's arrogance. What do you think of all this? Should he be treated better, or do the guards need to be tougher on him in prison? Leave your comment below and enjoy. And subscribe to the channel to receive more videos like this. The report from the prison guard where P. Diddy is held begins like this. Look, let me tell you, I've never seen someone as full of themselves as this guy P. Diddy. He arrived here already looking like a king, you know, but the highlight was when the kitchen staff brought him the first tray of food. Rice, beans, a simple meat, and an apple for dessert. Prison food. Nothing fancy, but the same as everyone else eats. He looked at the tray with a disgusted face, pushed it with his hands and said, "I'm not going to eat that. I only eat meals prepared by chefs from 5-star restaurants. Who do you think I am? Just anyone." I even thought he was joking at first, but he was serious. He didn't eat for the rest of the day, just drinking water, and even walked around the cell talking loudly about how disrespectful this was for someone of his level. As if we were going to bring a delivery from the Ritz-Carlton straight to jail just because it's famous. The next day he threatened to go on a hunger strike. He said he was going to call the lawyers and sue the prison for treating an icon as if he were a regular prisoner. I couldn't help but think, but you're just a regular prisoner now, partner. But he doesn't even want to hear it. He really believes he's above everyone else here. Meanwhile, the other prisoners started making fun. They call him King Diddy, or Boss of the Stars. But even with the crowd making fun of him, he doesn't come down from his pedestal. He keeps saying that he will only eat gourmet food, and that the rest is unworthy. To give you an idea, there was a day when he made a point of shouting down the hallway, "I'm P. Diddy, not an animal." Man. Even the guards started laughing. It looks like he's expecting someone to bring him a lobster dish or a truffled filet mignon at any moment. But let me tell you, here he will sit and wait. Now, the bath case. That was another soap opera. On the first day, we followed the normal procedure, telling him that he had time to use the shower like any other prisoner. He looked at me with that contemptuous expression and said, "I'm not going to take a shower in that filthy place. Do you expect someone like me to use a bathroom like that?" And look, I'll tell you, the shower is no spa, but it's also not the whole calamity he's portraying. He began listing his requirements. He wanted a private bathroom, filtered water, Egyptian cotton towels, and luxury brand soaps. I stood there listening to that and thought, this guy is living in a parallel world. When I explained that he had no option, that the shower is communal, and that everyone follows the same rules, he just shook his head and said, "That's not acceptable. I will not lower myself to that level." And he didn't shower. He stayed like that for days, refusing. Some prisoners even started to complain about the smell coming from his cell. But he didn't care. He said he'd rather not take a shower than subject himself to something below his standard, man. Believe it or not, he even tried to reason with us, saying that prison should offer better conditions for someone of my caliber. He seemed genuinely surprised that no one was willing to make exceptions for him. The most bizarre, he still feels disgusted when someone comes too close to him. One day, another prisoner bumped into him by accident and he shouted, "Don't touch me, you're going to contaminate me." It seems like he thinks he's still walking around in an impeccable white suit at a gala event, when in fact, he's here wearing the same orange jumpsuit as everyone else. Deep down, he really believes that he is special, that he should have a 5-star bathroom just for him. Now, let me tell you about the bed. That was another absurd story. As soon as he entered the cell, not even 5 minutes later, he started complaining. He looked at the bed and said something like, "What is this? Do you expect me to sleep here? This is an insult." The bed, to be fair, is simple. A metal bunk bed with a thin mattress, the kind that barely has foam inside. It's not a hotel, but that's what it has. He, of course, found that unacceptable. He said he wouldn't be able to sleep there, because people in my class have other needs. Feathers and a blanket, that is at least decent. This looks like something from a public hospital. I tried to explain that all prisoners have the same conditions, but he didn't even let me finish. Do you know who I am? I'm P. Diddy. I can't sleep inside something like that. I have back problems and my health is a priority. I swear. It seemed like he thought that with that speech, someone would run out to bring him a Ralph Lauren bedding set. That night, he couldn't sleep and made a point of making that clear. He was complaining all night, talking loudly in his cell. I heard him say, "When I get out of here, I'm going to sue everyone. No one can treat me like this." The next day, he tried a different approach. He tried to bribe one of the guards. He said something like, "How much do you want to get me a decent bed? I'll give you whatever you need." Of course, that didn't work, but he seemed genuinely shocked that no one was going to take his money. For him, everything in life can be bought. The most ironic thing is that he started improvising. He took the few clothes he had and tried to fold them under his pillow to create more comfort. But in the end, none of that made any difference, because he couldn't get over the idea of sleeping in a prison bed. He still grumbles every night, saying that this kind of thing shouldn't happen to someone as important as him. Oh, and when he saw other prisoners who were sleeping peacefully, he even said, "They must be used to this kind of thing. But I'll never get used to it." It's as if he thinks that just because he lived a life of luxury abroad, the world here should revolve around him. If you thought his food and bed demands were exaggerated, wait until you hear this one. One day, during visiting hours, he called one of the guards and started complaining that he couldn't take care of himself in these conditions. He said something like, "I need my team with me, a personal assistant at least. I can't live without someone to manage things for me." I looked at him, not believing what I was hearing. I asked, "Are you suggesting that we should let someone from your personal team come in here to live with you in the cell?" He replied, with a serious face, "Exactly. Don't you understand that I am a global brand? I need support to maintain my image." Even here, he said he needed someone to take care of his clothes detail, but he thinks he can improve it, somehow. He also mentioned that he wanted help organizing his legal strategies and, believe it or not, someone to manage his nutrition. He even had the nerve to say that this would be good for the prison's reputation, because he was willing to take this experience to social media when he gets out of here, as if it were a marketing opportunity for us. When we explained that this was completely out of the question, he was outraged. He said, he's being treated like any other prisoner, and well, he's a regular prisoner now, right? After much insistence, he changed his speech. He started asking if he could at least hire an external consultant to make regular visits and help him keep things on track. Your appearance and keep your morals high. I had to stop myself from laughing. To make matters worse, he started giving orders to the other prisoners, as if they were his improvised team. One day, he asked a guy to fold his clothes, and when the other refused, Diddy said, "You'll never leave this place because you don't know how to obey." Oblivious to the impact of this now, this one is the height of his arrogance. From the moment he stepped into the cell, P. Diddy started acting like he owned the place seriously. He refers to himself as the king here, and makes a point of trying to impose this idea on everyone. Within the first few days, he began demanding that other prisoners not speak to him directly, unless it was to ask permission or to praise him. He said something like, "I'm not like you. I'm a living legend. I will not tolerate disrespect." And it didn't stop there. He wants others to call him Sir Diddy or Your Majesty. If someone addresses him without using those titles, he turns away and pretends he didn't even hear. To try to reinforce this idea of superiority, he walks in a theatrical way through the corridors, as if he were parading on a red carpet. Once, during recreation time, he sat alone at a table and said to a group of prisoners, "This area is mine now. You can find another place to stay." Can you believe that? Of course, no one took him seriously, and he ended up being ignored. But he kept muttering about how people here don't know how to respect royalty. And it doesn't stop there. He already tried to give orders to us, the guards. One day, he called one of us and said, "I need you to organize recreation time, so I don't have to share space with," well, you know. He didn't finish the sentence, but it was clear he was talking of the other prisoners. He literally wants to be treated as someone apart from all this, as if the prison would make adjustments to accommodate his wishes. Even when he refuses to eat, bathe, or follow the rules, he tries to turn it into a declaration of superiority. He says he is protesting against a system that doesn't understand the importance of treating legends like him with due respect. In his mind, anything that happens here is a personal insult. The problem is that this king attitude is only creating more friction. With the other prisoners, they started teasing him, calling him Your Highness in a sarcastic way, but he doesn't seem to notice. He truly believes he's better than everyone here, and that eventually someone will recognize that and start treating him like he thinks he deserves. It is a mixture of arrogance and total denial of reality. If you think P. Diddy's attitude inside prison is something, wait until you know how he acts during visits. The things he demands and the way he treats the people who'd come to see him. It's unbelievable. First, he has already started with a list of rules for lawyers and family members who come to visit him. Before they entered, he sent word that he didn't want anyone dressed sloppily. He even said, "If you're going to visit me, at least do it in style. I don't want to be seen with anyone who looks like they just came out of the supermarket." That's right. Later, during visits, he doesn't miss the chance to complain about the prison and the conditions. He says things like, "Do you know what you're doing to me here? This is psychological torture. I don't belong here." He says it in such a dramatic way, as if he were starring in a movie. And of course, he always asks for something impossible, as if he were a king sending a wish list to his subjects. He has ordered designer watches, exclusive perfumes, and even clothes from famous designers. When the lawyer explained that none of this is allowed, he replied, "Then what do I pay you for? I need these things." And the situation becomes even more uncomfortable when he starts talking directly to family members. He doesn't thank them for coming, doesn't ask how they are. It's always about him. He already said something like, "You need to do more for me. You don't understand the impact this is having on my image abroad." It seems that he believes that the only function of the people who come to see him is to serve his interests. Worst of all is that he doesn't realize how these attitudes affect others. During a visit, he got irritated because they didn't bring him anything useful. He complained, "I was hoping, at the very least, for a better strategy to get me out of here. You are relaxed." And as he spoke, he gave orders as if he were commanding a production team, telling everyone what they should do to improve their situation. And it's always in the same arrogant tone. Can't let go of this idea that the people around him must be servants, even the ones who are clearly trying to help. For him, it's as if they were all just tools for him to get back to the top. Oh, and his cell. Diddy treats this as if it were a divine punishment, something completely outside of what he believes to be dignified for someone in his position. From the first moment he entered, he began making a detailed inventory of everything he didn't like. And look, basically, he doesn't like anything. He has said more than once that the cell is unfit for humans. He complains about the space, saying it is smaller than any suite I've ever slept in, as if comparing it to the luxury hotels he used to frequent. The mattress, the pillow, the lighting, everything is subject to criticism. He even complained about the texture of the walls, saying it was affecting his mood and creativity. Creativity for what? I have no idea. One day, he called one of the guards and made an absurd request. He said he needed a renovation in the cell. You can't spend that much time feeling uncomfortable. Of course, we just laughed. This isn't anyone's home, much less a celebrity studio. The other day, he stood at the cell door for almost an hour, drawing the attention of everyone who passed by, just to say how disrespectful he thought it was. To his reputation, he said something like, "Do you really think someone at my level deserves to be here? Look at this. This is a nightmare." He acts like he's on a home renovation show, waiting for someone to come and turn his cell into a presidential suite. And the complaints don't stop. The other day, he started complaining about the noise. He said he can't rest because the other prisoners talk too much, and that this is unacceptable. He even suggested that they put him in an isolated cell, but with appropriate conditions, something more spacious and comfortable. When we explained that that's not how it works, he blurted out, "You don't understand. I am being treated worse than a common criminal." The irony of this was completely lost on him. And what's most interesting is that even with all this complaining, he still seems to believe that it's only a matter of time before someone solves his problems. A VIP guest, and not an inmate. The cafeteria was where P. Diddy managed to transform something simple, like a meal, into yet another show of arrogance. The first time he was taken there, you could already see that he wasn't at all interested in trying to adapt. As soon as they delivered the tray of food, rice, beans, ground meat, and an orange, he looked at it as if it were toxic waste. He literally pushed the tray away and said very loudly, "That's not food. Who in their right mind would call that a meal? I'm P. Diddy, not an animal." Everyone stopped to look. Prisoners, guards, everyone. The silence lasted a few seconds before the laughter began. Some of the prisoners began to tease him, saying things like, "So, Your Majesty, do you want us to order a delivery for you?" But he ignored them and continued with his superior posture. For the next few days, he refused to eat anything in the cafeteria. Every time someone handed over the tray, He made a point of getting up and returning it, saying, "I can't accept this. It's a question of dignity." He repeated that he only ate meals prepared by renowned chefs, and that this food is not worthy of me. A luxury, he continued with the same attitude. He said it was food for amateurs. There was a time when he made an absurd request. He got up and said to one of the guards, "If you can't get something decent, like a filet mignon or a lobster, at least get a chef to cook here. You can take my money." Later, he spoke as if he were in a luxury restaurant, trying to solve a problem on the menu. The most ridiculous thing is that he still tries to maintain this pose, even with his stomach growling. You can hear him complaining about his hunger, but he will never admit that he needs to eat the food here. He even said, "You are forcing me to live on water. When I leave here, the world will know what they did to me." And it's not just that. He also doesn't sit with the other inmates. When he was invited to a table, he replied, "I don't share space with anyone." So he's left alone, standing with that look of disgust on his face, as if he were in a toxic environment. He truly believes that it is only a matter of time before someone brings him the proper food. In the end, this attitude only causes him to isolate himself more and become the target of jokes. The other inmates started calling him the Gordon Ramsay of jail, because nothing ever goes well for him. But for him, it doesn't matter. He seems to think he's in some kind of moral resistance, as if rejecting the food would prove he's special.